My name is Brandon Hawks. I'm a resident of this community all my life. Forgive me if I hack and cough a little bit. I've captured a little bit of a cold. All right. Now, last time I spoke about rational thought versus irrational thought and force in terms of philosophy. The time before that, I spoke about a looter-moocher mentality that has plagued our community, our state, and our country. Today I want to continue this topic of trying to discover the insanity that manages to infect the mind of policymakers and certain individuals. We think that transfer payments, government assistance, taxpayer subsidies, to public, private, or non-profit agencies are somehow decent, moral, economical, and logical. Government cannot control the economy without controlling the people. You cannot ignore that fact. History has shown that time and again. Even though some in this room and in this county will still believe that you can control the economy and not control the people. Economist Ludwig von Mises from the Austrian School of Economics stated that we, society, want things to be something they are not. And that thing, of course, to Mises was economics. You cannot change economics because it is like gravity. You can change the effect for a short while, but then it will bounce back. The core fact that everyone seems to ignore is human action. All of man's means are always pointed to an end, regardless of what noble cause we think it to be, or make it. The question that baffles Mises and people like me is why do policymakers and certain individuals cheer collectivism in some shape, fashion, or form? Under the name of community or the name of goodness, when history has proven time and time again that this only leads to more suffering, loss of productivity, the poor becoming poorer, and destruction of institutions. Why? We see what Denmark has done, and we continue to go along as usual. We've seen our community become ravaged by a welfare state, and we continue. We see the lack of any economic discussion by our leaders, and we just dozy along. Worst of all, we see leaders with no principle. Soon, we saw spoken prayer taken away. Although it is us, the sovereigns, the people, who have what is called home rule. And we bend over backward for a few lawyers and bureaucrats and have fear. The main reason for this gaffe is because no one studies constitutional history or remembers that we are a constitutional republic, not a democracy. But alas, that's what we get when we have government-run education. Our students do not learn history. They do not learn the other sides. They are taught through a textbook. But remember, I better be quiet and obey and just shut up. We don't want to upset anybody, right? God forbid if we have that. Isn't that the purpose of being free and tolerant? Hello? To be able to say what we want to say? But I think I figured it out. The leadership in this community has no principle. And sadly, at the same time, cannot face reality. When we fail to see the issues that are before us written on the wall, and we still do nothing, we fancy along in our positions or boards, we've lost direction. We've lost our souls. It's time to wake up. You cannot continue to ignore truth. The so-called logic that so many embrace of collectivism is a path of self-destruction, greater dependency, loss of principles. Our chairman here said in the past meeting of his list of accomplishments during his time as being chairman. Well, you want to hear my side? I've been here for 23 years. You want to hear what my point of view is? I've seen people lose work, buildings be left empty and idle, some to be left as eyesores throughout their community. We've lost our basic constitutional right to prayer under home rule out of fear. I've seen policies that you, Chairman, senselessly promote, such as welfare, handouts at the expense of my family. I've seen in times of so-called economic booms, before the recession of 2007, 2008, of our county remain stagnant in growth. I've seen property owners avoid taxes and never be called out on it. The only viable economic solution I've ever heard from this board, past and present, is more taxes. More of the same. I've seen the youth of my age leave in droves for better work and hope. And those who do not move, sadly, will fall into drugs, dependency, and violence. And I've seen it. I've seen cronyism firsthand with Daymark and the end of New River. I've seen a leader not lead and take responsibility for his actions and involvements with New River. I've seen people like Mr. Collins be punished for not knowing what he could have not known. Men like him who fought on principle, only to be abused, mocked, and laughed at by the heavy hand of government. While our local people are suffering, I have seen and heard no dialogue of economic ideas. Thomas Jefferson said that he believed local government was the best form of government because it was directly to the people, the closest. What would he think today if he stepped foot in this chamber? Now, you may think I'm being a little too harsh on our chairman and maybe some policymakers and others. You may say, I'm too young. I don't know what it's like being involved. I don't know what it's like being in the spotlight. You better think again. While I was in community college, I held 4 jobs, 2 public, 2 private, sometimes at the same time. When I was at Western Carolina University going for my bachelor's degree, I was vice and then president of a group called Young Americans for Liberty. That's a group that does not go from one party or the other. How do you think that was received on campus? I published in a private newspaper called The White Rabbit that promoted free speech on the community campus. How do you think that was received? I never received a single taxpayer dollar for that paper, and I'm darn proud of it. I volunteered for congressional candidate in the District 11, only to lose by 43 votes. I've been executive assistant to a state campaign for a candidate who was in a democratically gerrymandered district. And we were told we would never win, not because we didn't have the skill or know-how, but because it was fixed that we wouldn't win. That November night, we won by 200 votes. Today, I'm once again on a congressional campaign. I've been hired, provided a raise in less than a month after that, and then promoted 4 months later to manage a district of volunteers. I make my college loan payments before they're due. I help my family the best I can, and it still isn't enough. During these times, I've been kicked around, made bad decisions, been punished for them, openly criticized, mocked. I've been called things I will not repeat on this floor today. So on and so forth. So yeah, I've walked a good few miles. Pretty good for 23 years. I've talked with business people, wives, husbands, families, friends, individuals. And all they want to do is succeed. That's their goal. But it is people like Ken Richardson, the chairman, and policies that he holds, and policies that echo throughout the state, the country, and some parts of the world, that stop and tell, hamper, regulate, curb, manipulate, and control every decision of their economic lives for the sake of that stupid thing called the common good. An idea that fell apart during the time when the Berlin Wall fell years ago. But we will stay the course, regardless. Stay. Worst of all, I've seen these policies cut down my father, my mother, my sister, my grandparents, my friends, and so on every day of the week. If anybody wants to know why I come to loathe any government program that interferes in the market, I say because I see the effect that it has on the forgotten man. The man who has no time to speak his mind, who has to work when he's ill and worried when he is needed. He asks nothing but to be left alone. Is that so hard to ask from our government? When you do finally remove yourself, Mr. Richardson, from this board, I want you, and I encourage anybody, to do what my father does every week. Jump in a truck and trailer. I want you to drive to Washington State, Oregon, California, Arizona, New Mexico, and come back. Have maybe 1 or 2 days off with your family. Then get back in that cracker box and do it again, and again, and again, and again. Then come up to my father and my family and other families in this community and ask us to put 1 more penny in a tax increase with a straight face. Now, I have seen some things. I've seen no solutions. I've seen no principle, no character, only pragmatism, compromise, and hubris. Our first constitutional president, George Washington, spoke not of the things that he accomplished after office. He said, quote, I hope I shall possess firmness and virtue enough to maintain what I consider the most inviolable of all traits, the character of an honest man. Thank you.